Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rick Walker with Maverick News and Maverick Multimedia, and I'm here with an update on what is going on with Freedom Convoy 2022. Right now, we've been monitoring the situation at the Windsor Ambassador Bridge connecting Windsor Detroit, Canada, USA, and we're going to bring up some live footage right now. And this is what's going on at the border even as we speak. So throughout the night, police began to bring in more and more officers. And as you can see, they've been forming a line across Huron Church Road. And it's been a game of inches as police slowly push protesters back 1 inch at a time. As you can see, they've also brought in an armored vehicle, and at times there has been a police officer sitting up in that turret in a pop-up hatch with what appears to be some sort of a automatic or semi-automatic rifle or a machine gun possibly, but some sort of a gun. So he's been propped up in there, keeping an eye on the crowd. They also have buses, city buses that they've brought into the area. And we know that when some protesters asked what the buses were for, the response has been to keep people comfortable when they're on their way to jail. So hundreds of police officers on scene at the Windsor Detroit border, and they've been slowly pushing the protesters back all morning and into the afternoon. And this is the situation right now at the border. It has been tense, but there has been no violence. No one has been injured. And it isn't clear what's going on with regard to possible arrests, but police have been slowly pushing back the protesters who are attempting to hold the line, but have been losing some ground. Some vehicles were also moved out of the area, so it appears police are gaining ground. But at the same time, throughout the day, an appeal for more people to come down to join the protest was answered, and the crowd has been growing throughout the day. So that's really what's going on. It's a standoff, and it's just ongoing, and it isn't really clear where it's going to end up. Now, it looks like police are gaining ground, so it may be only a matter of time before this thing is broken up. But so far, completely peaceful, and yet the protesters continue to push back in the face of escalating threats from government officials who have introduced new rules. Doug Ford saying that effective very soon, I believe it was at midnight, the penalties would increase to a maximum of $100,000, possibly a year in jail for protesters who block access to highways and border crossings. So the resolve of the protesters is on full display here as they wrap themselves in Canadian flags, show their patriotism, and try to stand their ground as police do their best to shut this thing down. Clearly answering pressure from not only government, but also business interests, big corporations, factories, the manufacturing sector, the automotive sector, which is under pressure because of supply chain disruptions as a result of the border shutdown. Over $350 million US every day crosses the Windsor Detroit border in trade. So huge, huge pressure being applied here. And we are keeping very close tabs on what's going on for you down at the Windsor Detroit border. Let's just see if we can get you a couple of other angles on what's going on to give you a wider perspective on the situation down there at the border. Here's an aerial shot from just a short time ago. This gives you a sense of what's going on with the size of the crowd, the number of police there gives you a wider perspective. This from WXYZ TV in Detroit and a helicopter view. And as you can see, both sides digging in, and police are slowly pushing the protesters back toward, they're pushing them backwards as they gain ground. And as I said, some of the vehicles have been moved out of the area. So police are gaining ground there. But it's also clear that the protests have been highly effective, with governments now beginning to move on these vaccine mandates, which the protesters say they want removed. They're saying they won't leave until they get what they want. And government on the other side trying to save face and act as though they're not responding to any of the pressure from the protesters. However, it's pretty clear that Canada-wide, and even in Ontario, where this protest at the border is happening, governments are listening to what these protesters are saying and responding, even though they say that their decisions to lift some of these mandates are not a response to the protests. The crowd size here not nearly as large as what we see going on today in Ottawa. Let's bring up some footage from the Ottawa area, Parliament Hill. See if I can dig up some of that footage for you. Just give me a moment here. We had some stuff queued up. We'll just go back and grab that footage for you. Here we go. So this footage was just from moments ago on Parliament Hill. And as you can see, even though the threats of increasing penalties from the authorities have come down, the people have responded by showing up in even greater numbers. Huge crowd on Parliament Hill today, Saturday, answering the call for essentially reinforcements. Police have come in with guns in some cases, and even riot gear in certain areas of Ottawa to try to clear out the truckers. The protesters, armed with nothing more than flags, smiles, hugs, and a patriotic spirit. So this is what's going on right now in Ottawa, the nation's capital. Some honking going on in the background, cheering. And the standoff in other areas continues as well, in other parts of Ontario, in Alberta. It continues to spread, and I know that people were heading up to the Niagara region as well, and we're trying to get you the latest information from there too. So this broadcast is just a short one, just to update you on what is going on right now across Canada, and especially in the nation's capital, where the standoff continues, and truckers say they're determined to stay until all the vaccine mandates are removed, and or the government, Justin Trudeau, steps down. So the pictures really speak for themselves. It's just rinse and repeat, really, in a way. But I think the tensions are escalating here. Yesterday, in a brilliant strategic move, they've clearly read The Art of War. Police Chief Slawley with the Ottawa Police Service sent in a huge contingent of officers, and they surrounded and confiscated bouncy castles for children. The kids were down there, had been down there, playing on these bouncy castles, and the cops went in mass and disassembled them and confiscated them, and then returned them to the company that had rented them to the protesters so the kids could go down there and play on them. There's also been word of children's aid going in and taking children away from parents who choose to go down there, but so far we haven't seen any of that happen. And that would be a very controversial thing to do, to say the least. So that's the situation in Ottawa and the situation on the ground in Windsor at the Windsor Detroit border, Ambassador Bridge, right now. We will be back later in the day. We will be back later in the day at 6 p.m. If anything major happens between now and 6 p.m., we will sign on and bring you up to date as we continue to monitor the situation with Freedom Convoy 2022. So please stay tuned. Join us back here again at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, I'm Rick Walker signing off from Maverick Multimedia and Maverick News, and we will catch you on the flip side.